What's up guys, welcome to the software engineering channel. In today's video we are going to be looking at the second part of our online and offline user listing feature. What that means is we want to be able to see users that are online, and we also want to be able to see users that have gone offline. Right, we want to get some sort of notification or have their name pop out of our side menu, and we're going to be doing all this via the aid of SignalR. How about we dive right in, guys? So in the part 1 section of this video, what we were able to achieve was saving our users' information in the database. Previously, we only authenticated on the fly, and we lose our users' information in transit. But now we have already the ability to persist our users' information. So the next thing we're going to be doing now is to actually engage SignalR to perform the magic. And the next straight place to go is actually our chat hub. But before we go into our chat hub, the first thing we're going to be doing is to create some sort of a connection manager. Now this connection manager is going to be responsible for adding of our connection, removal of our connection, getting information tied to our connection. The whole idea of a connection manager is basically a dictionary of users' information tied to a particular connection GUID. SignalR would always give you that connection GUID when a particular user is online connected. So how about we just create a new class? automatically remove connection asset itself. So this ought to be connections. Or has it been connection? It has to be called connections. So we've got to change it. Yeah, basically it's supposed to be in its plural form. So yeah, so I think that's all about our chat hub. To be honest, there are no much thing going on in there. So I guess let's see for ourselves. So there are two dependencies we're going to be needing. The first, which is for sure a connection manager. Nice and sweet. Okay. So the first method we're going to be implementing is an initialize user list. Right, this basically would help us get a hold of all of our connection, so that when you get into Slack for the very first time, it wraps up all of the users that are online and it gets them to you, basically. Thanks to our connection manager that has abstracted all of the inner workings of performing those operations. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so we can do get users, and yeah, that's it. And now onto the awesome SignalR. So you can do get clients. We're going to be sending this to all. We're going to be doing a send async. And the reason why we are sending it to all is basically so that everyone can know that this particular user is in, or everyone can actually have that functionality to be able to tell all of the users that is currently in active connection at the time of logging in. All we're going to be needing is the user email. I said for us, the user email is like a unique identifier. You could go ahead to use like the user's ID as well. That works as a unique identifier as well. Whichever way you deem fit, but you can just follow me to get same result first. Then you study how the system works. Then you can. I love to see your clone version. Yeah. Okay, so we have context exposed to us. That's user. And we're going to drill down into the user's claim. And we're going to do a where. Okay, so what that basically does is to give us all of the information of the current user. All right, need to get the user email from parameter. So what this would do is to give us the email of the current user in this context, right? Okay, so the next thing we're going to be taking care of is what happens when a user is connected, and we're going to be overriding a particular method from SignalR. I just did that here, so how about I do a copy and paste? All right, that gives me the user email. The next thing I want to do is to get the user's name. Just do a copy and paste as well, but in this case the claim type is going to be name. All right, sweet. So and the reason why we're doing this is so that on the front end, when we're trying to when we get a hold of the dictionary containing users information in form of the key and the connection ID, we would not need to go to the database to pull out the user's information. So that's basically thinking about performance, right? So that when it gets to the front end, we can easily just split up our concatenated string, pick the username and display, and you're going to see how that's done once we get into the front end. A summary: the first thing we did was to get our connection ID. Second thing we did was to get the user's information from their current context given to us by the orb caller context from SignalR. Second thing we did, third thing rather we did was to generate the user's connection key, which is a concatenation of the user's email and the user's name. The fourth thing we did was to delegate the addition of the connection ID and the connection key to our connection manager, and that's basically it. Okay, so the next one like it is our own disconnected async, and this method is also, wow, isn't Visual Studio beautiful? So this next method is also going to be called by default by SignalR once a connection has been disconnected. That can be maybe the tab getting closed or the user logging out, right? So we're going to do pretty much same thing. Since we would need to generate the connection key, we're gonna have to get the user's email and the username. Then we use that to generate the connection key. And that particular method is going to contain the information of the user that got disconnected. So it can contain the username actually. All right, it can contain the username, and what that means is on the front end, this particular method can have some sort of notification bar, that kind of stuff, or an alert system, right, that just pops out of your browser to say so user is disconnected, is locked off, this kind of good stuff. All right, so actually takes in an exception, and we ought to pass this exception down to the base. That solves it. All right, guys, so we've come to the end of working on our hub. This is our hub. It's complete. The next thing we need to do is to go into, let's do a build to be sure all is well. All right, all is well. And also I like to do this particular cleanup, run code cleanup profile 1. Yeah, I like to do that once in a while. It does a lot of magic that I love. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is to go into our front end and wire up, get our SignalR functional on our front end. Signal. So I intend to do all of this in our menus. All right, so I'm going to be doing that here. Menus is basically where all of those stuff shows up, and we want also, is it menus or channels? I think it's in channels. Let's see. Our channels. Okay, so it's going to be here, and the reason why it's going to be here is because this is where our users are also going to be showing up, right? So what we are basically going to do is to have a little bit of change in UI. All right, so we're going to reduce this guy show less. We're going to do, instead of show less, we're going to do show more. Instead of up, it's just going to be down. All right, so we're going to reduce these guys. All right, so just remove 2 of those, and we go back to channel, and we are going to be introducing a section for direct message. This is going to be called direct message. Messages. Guess that's cool. All right, so let's bring in this. I have all of this removed. So by default, right, by default, the first name that should appear on your Slack should be your own username, right? By default, So that's what we're going to be doing here. And we're going to use an icon called carbon. User online. Okay, let's give this a run so we can see what we're doing. So by default, you should have your own username pop out of here. So we're going to do context. Okay, so we don't have access to context. The reason why we don't have access to that is because we are not using. So we're going to remove all of this and bring in authorized view. So this particular component is going to give us access to context. Okay, well aligned. All right, so let's do add context. Context.user. All right, context.user. Let's do it simple here. Just do C. Normally I wouldn't love to do C, but for the sake of spacing, type. And there are other ways to get this done, you know. One way is to use cascading parameters. So the concept of cascading parameters is basically to send in a parameter from a very top level component and make that parameter a cascading parameter. What that means is all other child components are going to have access to the parameter, right? So yeah, you can implement it in different good ways. All right. Obviously this will do the job just fine. Single or default, and we're going to get the value. Okay, so why is we yelling? Okay, so this is supposed to do we're on claims. All right, claim types. Is there a problem here? Okay, so we're supposed to bring in this. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, awesome. So we have SignalR, which is our first user, and that is me. Obviously, SignalR is myself. So basically, what we're going to do is to the span. Let's just do margin right of 2. Okay, so that works. All right, so we have ourselves as a first user, and the next thing we're going to try to do is to hook up SignalR into this particular component so that we can also fetch out all other users and we can have them listed out. All right, so we'll do code. also need a particular DTO. So let's make let's create a DTO. So this DTO is basically going to contain some specific information that is needed. So just create a folder called DTOs, because it's not our main entity model. All right. So we have users for listing DTO. It's a very simple one. It's only going to contain string, email, string, username. Our cookie provider is basically simple. We're just going to create that in our base class, base folder rather. It's just a class that contains our cookies. Public string cookie, and so we can go into our host page. For me, I like to go into this particular page, which is like the HTML page, and basically what I do is I can come into here and do a var cookie. So this is me basically trying to use HTTP context to fetch out our cookie. And since I know the name of our cookie, I can easily have it typed out here. Slackify alt cookie. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to send in a parameter called cookies, and this is going to have cookie. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so and this particular line is basically going to invoke our app component. So obviously this parameter is also going to be needed in our app component. So we can go into our app component and I should be fine now. Okay, and we need to actually go register all of these dependencies. So we need to go register this guy, and obviously this is going to be a single thing, and because obviously it's going to be used all around, all across our application. So let's go into our installer, service installer to be specific. And yeah, so so I said this is going to be singleton. That was a mistake. It's going to be a scoped, it's going to be registered as a scoped dependency, because obviously you don't want to have one cookie for all of your application, right? What we want is for each scope of HTTP context, we want to have a particular cookie provided to them, right? So yeah, so that's why we're going to register that as a scoped service. So we're just going to do add scoped cookie provider. And obviously you can see how we have separated and one other single thing that I need to add quickly that I forgot, which is very important, is to add SignalR. So say SignalR, and there are some configurations that I deem very helpful. So I'm just going to do config. By default, SignalR does not enable detail errors, right? So you might be very confused when you see some type of errors because you do not have the details enabled. So we're going to have to do that by ourselves, and this is going to be very helpful, and I'm sure you thank me later. All right, another thing we want to add real quick is add response compression. So let's get back to our channels. Now we have our cookie provider set up, so we can inject our cookies provider. Okay. Haven't done that. Let's do an override on one of our life cycle, which is on initialize async. If you're wondering where this name came from, this name came from when we were actually setting up our cookie. So yeah, you'll notice the name we used, and you want to use the same name also because that's the name you're going to be fetching, using to fetch your cookie as well. So when you are also sending it up with your up connection, you want to make sure the name stays the same. So to be honest, what I would advise that should be done is just so to get rid of this naming convention, having to use magic string. What I would what I would advise to do, which we are going to do in our refactoring section, is to use a constant, right? So use a constant, but for now, we would care less about all of those. We just want to get functionality to work for now. So our domain is obviously our local host, and our value, the value of the cookie, is going to be coming from our cookie provider. So I think, yeah, I'm really missing a reference. So I'm supposed to have let's see, let's be sure I have the package, the SignalR client package. I'm supposed to have that package, SignalR client. Okay, so yeah, here's it. So you need to download this package. This is the package that enables SignalR to be connected to on your client. So that package is very important to have. All right, so we're going to be downloading installing rather the 5.02 version, since we are on ASP.NET 5.0. So it says this is deprecated and no longer. Let's see, let's just move up a bit. Okay, so yeah, so this is very important. On channels, loading suggestion. Can we wait for that? Nope. Okay, so let's just bring it in ourselves. Just do dot client. That should solve it. Okay, that solves our problem. Okay, but this is still complaining anyways. Hub. Okay, so this isn't supposed to end here, obviously. So we ought to do some with URL, navigation manager. We'll have to bring this in. If it's not already in, let's bring it in. Okay, left to absolute URI, and let's be sure about the URI we actually used. Okay, so we use slash chat. So we're also going to use chat over here, and we're going to build. So actually need to bring in, so we need to inject a navigation manager. Let's do that quickly. Okay, that should solve that. Okay, so this is the case for when our up connection, when our cookie does not exist, and this is the case for when we actually have cookies, right? So for that, we are only going to introduce an option parameter. An option parameter is actually really simple. So let's just do an option dot cookies equal to container, and that's it. Yeah, basically that's it. Okay, so the next thing for us to do is to tie in some classes that we already have on our chat hub. All right, so the first one we want to tie in, and this is the way you're going to be tying in different classes as the application grows, as your functionality grows. All right, so we have hash set of string, that should be 3. The name of the class we want to tie in is this. So, and we would have to obviously do some refactoring process. All right, so all of this magic string flying up and down is absolutely not advisable. So you see that, to be sure, I actually have to go and copy the exact string, and that's why magic string is definitely a no-no. All right, so but we are not focused on refactoring currently. We're not focusing on clean code. We're just trying to get the functionalities to work first before we go that route. All right, so we're expecting a list. So I mean, you see how this bi-directional thing works, right? So it's not just in the image. When you do all of this stuff, you're going to see how the whole thing works. So I think we're good actually. I think we're good. Let's see. Let's get this out of the way. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to do a breakpoint on this, and I'm also going to do a breakpoint on this so we can see how all of this works. Okay, so let's give it a run. I've not actually tied in our connection manager as part of our dependency, so we need to do that. So let's go into our services installer. We need to tie in our connection manager real quick, and it's basically a single thing object, so we're going to tie it in real quick. Add single thing, connection manager, otherwise it's not going to work at all. So okay, so let's try that again. So let's try to sign in. We're trying to sign in using Google Auth. So let's sign in with this account. Okay, so we're here. So let's step through to see what's happening. So it has gotten, let's see, has it gotten user email? So it has my user email, obviously from Google, and it also has, it contains my username as well, and obviously from Google, right? Username SignalR. And the next thing it does is to generate a connection string. And you'll notice that we have a connection already, right? See our connection string assigned to us by SignalR. And our connection manager already got that sorted, handled. All right, so we continue. It's obviously going to get us into our own page. Now we're connected. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in another client. Okay, so that's one very weird thing with SignalR. Actually does that connection, calling of connection twice. Okay, so that aside, let's bring in another client. So we're going to bring in another client just to mimic another user basically. Let's do this real quick. All right, so put a hi on this particular place. All right, so let's sign in as well. So he tries to do all of those yada yada. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we obviously have to handle that, but it's no problem. We can still move on. Okay, so I think that's a problem. Okay, so what we can do real quick is to do a check. Let's do a real quick check. All right, let's try this one. Okay. Okay, so alright, I think let's do this. We should be good. But I think another closed connection, hub connection, server, closed connection. This time I'm going to be having, I have this signed in already, and I'm just going to remove the breakpoints here so we don't keep having that. All right, so let's also try to sign in on this particular client representing another user basically. Okay. Okay, so it's not working. Not aware of. Okay, so we've actually not tied in our list of users over here, so it's actually not going to work. Okay, so what we need to do is obviously we need to generate this list according to our previous chat user list that we have already. Okay, so let's do it for each users and previous chat user list, and let's do an if, and we are doing an if statement to be sure that the particular user is not our current user, because we already have our current user displayed already. So we don't want to do that twice. If you don't do this, you're going to have your current user also displayed again somewhere within the list, and that's not what we want. All right, so I'm just going to use C. Type is equals to claim types email single right. So yeah, that's going to help us be sure that we're not displaying the same user twice. So we're just going to paste that, and what we are going to do here is to grab the user and grab the user's username. Basically, that's what we want to do. So let's see if auto reload is going to work. Hopefully, which I doubt. Okay, so quickly before we actually close up, another thing I want us to quickly do is to implement dispose async, because if we do not do that, we will not be able to actually end an hub connection, and our disconnect would not work if that is not done properly. So we need to do this. If hub connection as important. All right, so we're just going to stop this. Stop. Okay, I think it's unable to stop because we already initialized hot reload. Oops. Okay, so we have this up. Let's quickly bring up our second client. We have this up as well. Okay guys, so I haven't taken some time to figure out where the issue is coming from. I found out that the real cause of the issue is due to our using magic strings. So basically the name of our cookie over here has just a single F, and the cookie we're trying to get has a double F, and from our alt schema as well, our cookie has just a single F. So basically SignalR is unable to get the user information from the cookie, and that way is also unable to list the user as a new connection. So obviously this is coming up because we're having to use magic string all across board, and this is quite intentional because we're trying to get the basic thing to work first before we then look into refactoring. So the basic solution is to make sure the spelling of our cookie name is the same across board. All right, so we intend to use a double F, so we're going to paste that across board, making sure that all of those are the same, nothing else. All right, and also we need to go into our team info account, and you'll notice that this is actually displaying an hard-coded name as well. So what we can do, make this view an authorized view. Now, having made it an authorized view, we have access to context. So we can just copy over this guy over here. Copy and paste over here. All of this is going to be refactored. All of this is going to be refactored because we do not actually need to repeat ourselves over and over again. But our aim currently is to get the whole concept working. All right, so that's sorted. Okay, I think that should be it. So let's give this a run. Okay, and I'm going to remove all of my breakpoints. I have quite some breakpoints in there because of debugging sake. So this is my signed in user. I'm signed in with Damilola Alagbala. All right, and I'm going to open my second client. It's my second client. Close this. So I'm going to open my second client. This is my second client. Okay, so my second client is Alagbala Damilola, which is another account. And now you will notice that my second client is up, Alagbala Damilola, and also we have the already signed in user, which is Damilola Alagbala over here. It might be quite confusing, but I mean, you see the change in names and you see the different picture in the account. And also you can see that in this first client, we already have it show signify that one other user has signed up. All right, so this is how our user listing feature works. If I have any other accounts, I can keep signing into Slack and everyone will get notified by seeing the username pop up. All right, guys, this would be it for this part. In the next part of this series, we'll be working on one-to-one messaging and group messaging as well. See you in the next one, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is Software Engineering Channel, and we do all things software engineering. See you on the next one, guys. Bye-bye.